Hello friends, about 70% of the friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and contributes to the growth of the channel. Thank you all. From which country or city do you follow the channel? I never thought an old dust-covered prophecy could completely change my life. But sometimes the things we dismiss most easily turn out to be the ones that haunt us the deepest. It all began on a June day in the year 2221, when I accidentally stumbled upon a worn file in the restricted archives of the International Astronomical Institute. The cover was yellowed with age, the letters faded with time, leaving only a chilling title that made me freeze: The Prophecy of Baba Vanga. A great event in 2221. We are not alone. I chuckled quietly, assuming it was just an old researcher's harmless joke. But as I flipped through the brittle pages, a cold shiver ran down my spine. The words didn't just describe an encounter with an alien civilization, they warned of a horrifying truth. They don't come from far away. They've always been beside us. The room around me seemed to darken. A strange feeling crept in, as if someone were standing right behind me, their icy breath brushing the back of my neck. I turned around quickly. No one was there. Only the silence of the shadows, and a fear I couldn't explain slowly beginning to take hold of my mind. I was supposed to be cataloging old star charts. That was my assignment, nothing more. Just a quiet afternoon in the sub-level archives of the International Astronomical Institute, surrounded by dust, data, and silence. But I've always had this compulsion, a fascination with what others overlook. So when I noticed a thick binder shoved deep behind a collapsed row of shelves, its spine unmarked, its cover wrapped in some kind of coarse fabric, I felt drawn to it in a way I couldn't explain. The folder was cold to the touch. It wasn't labeled like the others. No standard codes, no dates. Just one word handwritten in trembling ink on the inside flap: Vanga. I froze. The name triggered something dormant in me. Baba Vanga, one of the most enigmatic figures in prophetic lore. I thought her predictions had long been archived, classified, or debunked. But this was different. The pages were brittle and yellowed, bound together with red thread. They smelled faintly of ash and something else. Something sweet, almost like decayed fruit. I started reading. The first few pages seemed like typical transcripts, vague symbolic ramblings about time folding and light breaking through veils. But then came page 17. That's when the tone shifted. Her words weren't predictions, they were warnings. In the year of the double sun 2221, the veils will tear. They will not descend from the sky, they will awaken beside us. You will not see their ships. You will see their shadows in your reflection. I read that line over and over again. My pulse quickened. Something about it felt personal. Like it wasn't meant for the world. It was meant for whoever found it. The deeper I went, the more disturbing it became. She spoke of the others not as invaders, but as infiltrators, ancient and patient, hidden in frequency, masked in familiarity. The prophecy ended with a final hastily written line almost scratched into the page with force. They are not coming. They have always been here. That's when the power flickered. The overhead lights dimmed for a moment, just a second. But in that moment I saw a figure reflected in the glass door behind me. Still, watching. I spun around. No one. Just the long rows of archive cabinets stretching into shadow. My breath fogged the air slightly. I hadn't noticed how cold it had become. I looked back down at the folder, and then I saw it on the bottom corner of the last page. A symbol, scorched into the paper, 3 intersecting circles, and a vertical slit down the center. I don't know why, but I reached out to touch it. The moment my finger brushed the edge of the burned mark, every monitor in the archive turned on flickering static all at once. Then a sound, faint but clear, crackled through the speakers. A woman's voice. You weren't supposed to find this. I slammed the folder shut. The lights returned. The monitors went black. But I already knew. I'd opened something that wasn't meant to be opened. And whatever it was, it knew I had. I told no one about the prophecy. Not because I didn't want to, because I couldn't. The moment I tried to speak the words aloud, my throat would tighten. My voice would simply vanish, replaced by a pressure in my skull like something was squeezing my thoughts from the inside. So I kept it to myself, at first. But then, things started to happen. It began subtly. Just a change in the sky. Every night for a week I'd step outside onto the observation deck of the Institute. And every night the stars looked wrong, slightly off-kilter, misaligned. Like someone had nudged the cosmos just a few inches to the left. I ran calculations, no anomalies in planetary drift, no data discrepancies, but my eyes didn't lie. And then there was the humming. A low-frequency vibration, barely perceptible. You couldn't hear it, you felt it. Like a tremor in your bones. It would come at exactly 2:22 a.m. every night. My furniture would vibrate slightly. The light fixtures would sway. My own teeth ached as if being tuned by something unseen. At first I thought it was seismic, but the geology team reported no movement, no tectonic activity, no source. Then the animals began to react. One morning I found a flock of birds circling above the Institute in perfect synchronized spirals. They did not flap their wings. They simply drifted as if suspended by invisible threads. They remained for hours, unmoving, staring down at the building below, like observers at a spectacle no one else could see. I filmed it. The footage was corrupted the next day. Not glitched, erased. Next came the whispers. Late at night, I would hear voices behind the walls of my quarters, soft, unintelligible, like static wrapped in language. I pressed my ear to the wall. The voice would stop. But every time I turned away, it would resume closer. One night I recorded it, and when I played it back I heard my own voice whispering words I had never spoken. "We're not alone in the room, are we?" That was when the Institute's internal system started acting strangely. The security feed would flash to black for exactly 11 seconds every few hours. During those blackouts, personnel started reporting dreams. Shared dreams. Same symbols. Same figure, tall, featureless, always standing at the edge of their vision. And the worst part, I saw it too. In the reflection of my bathroom mirror late one night, just over my shoulder, its shape rippling like heat in the air, head tilted at an unnatural angle. It vanished the moment I turned, but I swear I felt breath on my neck. By the third week, reports began flooding in from other observatories. Unexplained radio frequencies repeating the same pattern across continents, a sequence of pulses and tones that, when translated, aligned perfectly with the human genome. People missing time hours, even full days vanishing from memory, only to awaken in strange places they didn't remember entering. A shadow on the moon caught by 3 separate telescopes moving against the surface, against the direction of light. The Institute launched an internal investigation, but no one could agree on what we were dealing with. Some said it was mass hysteria. Others claimed it was a new form of solar radiation. But I knew better, because every night I would see them in my dreams. The same faces, the same hollow stares. And they weren't strangers. They were people I knew. Friends, colleagues, my own reflection. Except something inside them had changed. Their movements were too smooth, too delayed. As if mimicking what it thought a person should look like, but getting it ever so slightly wrong. That was the moment I realized the truth. The signs weren't warnings. They were invitations. Sleep stopped feeling like rest. It became a ritual of fear. At first I told myself it was stress. The Institute had turned cold figuratively and literally. People whispered more than they spoke. Eyes lingered too long. Hallways echoed even when empty. But the dreams, they were the worst part. The first one was almost normal, just off. I stood in the hallway outside my quarters. The walls were wrong, pulsing like they were made of flesh beneath a thin membrane of concrete. The light above me flickered, not in rhythm, but like it was breathing. And at the end of the corridor stood me. But not me. It was a perfect replica. Same face, same stance, same uniform. Yet it stood unnaturally still, lips slightly parted, and the eyes. God, the eyes. They weren't looking at me. They were looking through me. Like it was watching something behind my soul. I tried to move. Couldn't. I tried to speak. My mouth opened, but a sound came from it instead. "You're not supposed to be awake." I jolted upright, drenched in sweat, heart racing. I could still hear the voice echoing in my head. The clock read 2:22 a.m. I didn't sleep again for 3 days, but the dreams came back anyway. They always came back. The second dream was worse. I was underwater, yet I could breathe. Around me floated bodies, weightless eyes open, drifting like seaweed in the void. Their mouths moved as if speaking, but no sound came out. Only vibrations that resonated in my bones. And then they all turned to me at once, perfectly synchronized. Hundreds of them. Their eyes rolled back, revealing something behind the iris symbols, glyphs flashing like starlight. Their mouths moved again, and this time I understood the word. Return. I awoke screaming. Blood ran from my nose. My sheets were soaked. On my wrist, 3 small bruises in the shape of a triangle. I hadn't fallen. I hadn't hit anything. I hadn't dreamed that part. From that night forward, the line between waking and sleeping started to blur. I would find myself standing in the middle of the Institute's hallways without remembering how I got there. One morning, I woke up in the restricted server room door, wide open, red lights flashing, my hands trembling. The security footage showed me entering alone, but the motion sensors picked up 2 entities. I began recording my sleep. What I saw on the footage broke something inside me. I was sitting upright in bed, not moving, eyes wide open. And then at exactly 2:22 a.m., my body bent backward, unnaturally far, mouth open, as if screaming, but no sound came out. And in the corner of the frame, just barely visible, was a tall, thin silhouette standing in the doorway, unmoving, watching. It stayed there until I collapsed back onto the bed. The dreams continued, and each night they felt more real than the day before. One night I dreamt of a chamber deep underground lined with mirrors that didn't reflect me, but other versions of myself, sick, mutated, blank-eyed. And they all whispered the same word in perfect unison: merge. That night, I woke up with my fingernails caked in dirt. My feet were bare. Mud tracked across my apartment floor. I checked the security logs. The front door had never opened. Something was taking me somewhere. And each night I came back a little less me. It happened on a Thursday. I remember the exact time, 2:22 a.m. Of course it was. I had stopped sleeping entirely by then. My mind was unraveling, pulled thin between the waking world and the dreams that refused to stay in sleep. I kept hearing the same phrase over and over again in my head, like a broken transmission stuck on loop. They are already here. That night I was in the comms lab, alone, trying to trace the source of an anomalous signal that had been bleeding into every frequency across the Institute for the past 3 nights. It wasn't noise, it was structured. Rhythmic pulses, patterns, a language of sorts. Then, the room changed. It wasn't sudden. It was as if reality had become unstable, like the walls were vibrating between 2 different versions of themselves. My computer screen dimmed, and every light in the room shifted to a deep red hue, as if someone had lowered a veil over the entire facility. And then I heard it. A voice, not through the speakers, not in my head, but in the air itself. It sounded ancient, not aged, but old in concept. Like it had spoken long before human vocal cords ever existed. "We see you." My breath caught in my throat. My eyes scanned the room. Nothing. But the voice didn't stop. "We are not arriving. We are awakening." I turned slowly. Behind me, the glass window of the observation deck reflected something that shouldn't have been there. A figure, tall, emaciated, drenched in a shifting darkness that didn't reflect light but consumed it. Its limbs were too long, like something trying to imitate human proportions and getting the measurements slightly wrong. And its face, it didn't have one. Not in the traditional sense. Just surface. Skin stretched across where features should be pulsing like a drum. But even without eyes, I knew it was looking at me. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't respond. My body had gone cold, disconnected, like I was just watching myself from the outside. The figure moved, slowly without sound. It didn't walk, it glided as if space itself bent to its presence. It came to the glass, tilted its head. Then, it mimicked me, raised its hand exactly as I did, moved its fingers as I moved mine. But it was always half a beat off, like it had never done it before, like it was learning me. And then it pressed something against the glass, not a hand. Something more like an appendage, with multiple joints, each ending in a sharp curve. The surface began to vibrate. The temperature in the lab dropped to freezing. Ice formed on the inside of the monitors. Then I heard the voice again, not from the air this time, but from my own reflection. You have been chosen. You opened the gate. You will be the first. The lights blew out. Everything went black. When I woke up, I was no longer in the comms lab. I was lying on the floor of the Institute's underground maintenance tunnels, somewhere I had no clearance to access. My nose was bleeding. My ears rang. I stood slowly. The walls were covered in symbols, carved, burned, almost breathing, and in the center of the corridor a phrase repeated over and over again in glowing blood-red glyphs. We are memory. We are mirror. We are next. Since that night, I haven't been the same. Something saw me. Something touched me. And worse, something followed me back. I thought the encounter in the comms lab was the worst of it. I was wrong. That was only the introduction, a door creaking open. This was the part where something began stepping through. After that night, I started seeing patterns. Not just in data, but in people. In how they spoke, how they moved, how they looked at me. The receptionist I'd known for years suddenly greeted me with a strange, delayed smile, like she was buffering between expressions. A researcher passed me in the hallway and mouthed words instead of speaking them, as if rehearsing something silently. One technician blinked out of sync, each eye closing at a different time. I watched horrified as they calmly went back to typing like nothing was wrong. I began to suspect it wasn't just hallucinations. Something was replacing them. But not all at once. No, that would have been easier. This was gradual, precise. I checked internal logs and found strange inconsistencies, security footage looping fragments that never happened. Entry badges registered at multiple locations simultaneously. Staff members signing in at hours they were supposedly asleep. The deeper I looked, the more corrupted the files became. But then, something slipped through. In one of the corrupted security logs, frame by frame, I saw my own face, standing in the corner of the server room. Eyes black, skin pale like wax, watching me work. Except I had never been there. My heart stopped when I realized what I was looking at wasn't a glitch. It was a duplicate. Something was walking around the facility as me. And then the voice returned. Not in my head, not in the air. This time it came from my personal comms terminal directly without access credentials. The message was text only. You are vessel. You are reflection. You are what we need you to become. I stared at it, paralyzed. Then the screen flickered and new words appeared. They do not arrive. They unfold. That line hit me like a punch to the chest. This wasn't an invasion. This was an emergence. They weren't coming from space. They were coming from inside us. Memories surfaced that didn't belong to me. Brief flashes of places I'd never been, people I'd never met, but I remembered them with clarity so intense it made my eyes water. It was as if someone else's life was being uploaded into mine, piece by piece. And that wasn't the worst part. I started losing my own memories. I'd forget my passwords, my birthday, the names of my parents. Once I stared at my own reflection for 5 full minutes because I couldn't remember which eye was my dominant one. I was disappearing, not dying, not being erased, being rewritten. Late one night, I accessed the restricted archive again, the same file from weeks ago, the prophecy, and I noticed something that hadn't been there before. At the bottom of the page, in handwriting that matched mine, was a final message. You opened it. You were always meant to. I don't remember writing that, but somehow, I know it's true. They're not visitors. They're not aliens. They're us, or what we're meant to become. We were never alone. We were always the seed, and now the seed is beginning to bloom. I can't trust time anymore. Some days last an hour. Others stretch on endlessly looping conversations, repeated gestures. There are moments I blink, and the world skips forward like a scratched disc. My body still functions, but I'm not convinced I'm the one in control anymore. The first time I blacked out, I was standing in the Institute's observatory. The next moment, I was in the boiler room 2 levels down with no recollection of getting there. My hands were trembling. My ID badge was gone. And scratched into the concrete wall beside me were 3 words: "Let them in." The second time I woke up in my own apartment, but the layout was wrong. The furniture was familiar, yet subtly misplaced. Angles too perfect. Shadows falling the wrong way. On the coffee table sat a cup of coffee, still warm, but I hadn't brewed it. When I looked out the window, I didn't see the city skyline. I saw nothing. Just a gray horizon stretching forever like a blank canvas that had forgotten how to render reality. And then there was the mirror. I approached it cautiously, already fearing what I'd see. And sure enough, my reflection didn't follow me exactly. It hesitated half a second behind, tilted its head in the wrong direction, blinked when I didn't. I stared at it in horror. And then it smiled. I didn't. I screamed and shattered the mirror with a chair, but there was no glass on the floor, no shards, just a blank frame, empty. When I tried to leave the apartment, I realized the door was gone. Not locked, gone. I curled into a corner, breathing hard, whispering to myself over and over, "I'm real. I'm real. I'm still me." But I wasn't sure anymore. The Institute began to notice too. They held meetings without me. People stopped making eye contact. I saw my own name crossed off on schedules I never canceled. Security checkpoints stopped registering my access chip. One day I found a memo I wasn't supposed to see, printed in red ink. Subject: Containment Protocol. Echoes. My name was listed under a section titled Subjects Exhibiting Full Partial Divergence. That night I was followed, not by anyone visible, but I felt it. In the static of the hallway lights, in the hum of the vents, in the way my shadow would twitch in the wrong direction. I locked myself inside my lab and connected to the biometric log. It confirmed my worst fear: I had entered restricted rooms. At times I was asleep. I had sent encrypted messages to unknown recipients. I had recorded voice memos in a language that doesn't exist. I played one back. My voice, but not mine, speaking in slow, guttural syllables layered with distortion. But underneath the static, I could still make out the translation: I give permission. Permission for what I don't know. I think part of me does. But I've lost the ability to access that part. Then came the night of the collective blackout. The entire facility lost power at exactly 2:22 a.m. Backup systems didn't activate. All doors unlocked simultaneously. And in that darkness, I heard hundreds of footsteps, but no voices, no screams, just the sound of people moving, in perfect silence. I lit my emergency lantern. The hallway outside my door was full of them, my colleagues, friends, supervisors, all standing motionless, eyes rolled back, breathing in unison, and they turned toward me. 1 step, 2, 3. I slammed the door shut, barricaded it. Then I saw myself, on the security monitor, standing in the hallway with the rest of them, expressionless, empty-eyed, but grinning slightly. It wasn't a look of menace, it was a look of acceptance. I no longer know how much of me is still me. Thoughts come in static bursts. My reflection speaks first. I forget faces I once knew. I feel something else moving just beneath my skin. And the worst part, I'm starting to feel peaceful about it. Like surrender isn't loss, but evolution. I've started avoiding people, not out of fear, out of instinct. Something inside me flinches now when someone gets too close. Like my body knows before I do. This is not them anymore. It began with subtle differences. Dr. Aiken, the senior biochemist, used to chew his pen cap obsessively, every day. A twitching little ritual. But now he just holds the pen, perfectly still. No tapping, no fidgeting. just waiting. I watched him stare at a blank monitor for over 20 minutes. When I finally asked what he was doing, he turned to me with that same vacant, delay-heavy smile and said, "I'm observing the silence. It's growing." That night, I dreamt of him. His skin peeled back layer by layer, not bleeding but unfolding like silk being unwrapped. And beneath was not a person, just geometry, a moving pattern, alive. The next day, Dr. Mina, my closest friend, approached me in the cafeteria. I hadn't seen her in days. "Hey," I whispered cautiously. "Are you okay?" She looked up. Her eyes were wrong, too wide, too dark. And when she smiled, I noticed she didn't blink for the entire conversation. "Everything's better now," she said. "The noise is gone. You should come see." I asked her what she meant. Downstairs, she replied, voice soft. "Beneath the institute. We've made contact. They're inside now." I asked her who. She just tilted her head. "Us." That night, I snuck into the sublevels. No one stopped me. In fact, I think they wanted me to go. The doors were unlocked. The hallways were empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed above like flies trapped in glass. I found a chamber I'd never seen on any blueprint, circular metallic humming. Inside were dozens of them. People I knew, all standing in rows, eyes closed, breathing in sync like a living machine. And in the center stood something else, a pillar of light. No veil, moving, folding in on itself. Not glowing, but consuming every photon around it. And one by one they stepped into it. Each time they screamed not out loud, but in some way deeper. A psychic scream like something old and buried being torn out of them. When they emerged, they smiled. And they were different. Calmer. Empty. Their eyes had that dead stillness I was beginning to recognize. I backed away. I should have run. But someone was already behind me. Mina. She didn't grab me. She whispered, "It's all right. You're almost there. You've been changing too." I shook my head, but she just smiled wider. "You don't dream like them anymore. That's the first step. Soon, the mirror won't frighten you. Soon, the voice inside your head will sound like your own." I shoved past her and ran. Back in my room, I stared into the mirror again. This time, I didn't see my reflection. I saw a version of me standing in that chamber smiling, content. The mirror shimmered like water. I reached out. My fingers passed through. The air on the other side was colder. Then I heard it. The voice. "Mine, but not mine. You're not afraid of becoming them. You're afraid of realizing you already have." Since then, I've watched more of them change, one by one. Their movements smoother. Their words more measured. They speak less, but listen more, as if something else is whispering only to them. And I can't help but wonder, how many of us are still truly human? Or worse? How long until I'm no longer one of them, because lately I've stopped fearing them, and started understanding them. And that might be the most terrifying part of all. I waited until nightfall. Not that it made much difference anymore. Time here felt broken shadows stretched too far, lights pulsed with no rhythm. But I waited anyway because I needed to believe there was still such a thing as timing. I had packed nothing. There was nothing to bring. Just my ID chip, a flashlight, and a rusted folding knife I found in a forgotten drawer, because somehow having something human in my hand gave me the illusion of control. The corridors of the Institute were too quiet. No footsteps, no voices, not even the hum of machinery, just a low, ambient vibration beneath the floor like the heartbeat of something massive lying just beneath the surface. As I moved, I realized the building had changed again. The layout was wrong, corridors looping into each other, stairwells leading nowhere. It was like walking through a memory misremembered. That's when I heard the first whisper. "Don't go." It came from behind a door I hadn't opened. A voice familiar, maybe mine, maybe not. I kept walking. I passed the research wing. Lights flickered in Morse-like patterns. The windows were blackened from the inside like the outside world had been erased. The front entrance was sealed. I expected that. But not what I saw in its place. A wall not built but grown out of some organic material, pulsing faintly like it was breathing. And etched into it in deep spiraling grooves was a phrase I'd come to dread: "You're already inside." I turned and ran. I headed for the maintenance tunnels, old forgotten paths used only during construction. I remembered the schematics. I thought I could find a way out through them. But the deeper I went, the colder it got. Not temperature cold, reality cold. The kind of cold that makes your thoughts freeze in place. My flashlight flickered and died. The walls around me pulsed with faint bioluminescent veins, like I was walking inside a living thing. Then I began to see them. Figures lining the tunnel, frozen in place. Silent, motionless, like mannequins made of flesh. Some I recognized. Some were me. Versions of me. Wearing different clothes. Standing in different poses. Eyes open but lifeless. Each one whispered something as I passed. I couldn't understand the words, but I felt their meaning. "You've already tried this. You didn't make it last time. There is no outside." I reached the old escape hatch. My hands trembled as I turned the wheel. It resisted, groaning like it hadn't been touched in decades. When it finally opened, a gust of freezing air hit me. I climbed the metal ladder, rung after rung, praying for the sky, for stars, for anything real. And then I opened the last hatch. There was no sky. Only a massive, endless mirror stretching into infinity, and in it, millions of me, running, screaming, staring, trapped in the same loop, caught in the same moment, forever. And behind me in the reflection stood that figure again, the faceless one, tall, still, watching. But this time, it spoke through me. "There is no escape from what you are becoming." I collapsed. I don't remember falling. I don't remember hitting the ground. But when I awoke, I was back in my quarters. Everything perfectly arranged. My uniform laid out. Coffee steaming. Lights warm. As if I had never left. Except this time there was a mirror directly across from the bed. And my reflection was already awake, already smiling. I don't try to run anymore. Because the truth is worse than the trap. There's nowhere to go. You don't escape from something you're turning into. You just become it. I stopped asking questions until one answered itself. There was a silence that came over the Institute, deeper than the absence of noise. A hollow stillness, like the world had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. People no longer spoke, they simply watched. And worse, they smiled like they were in on a joke the rest of us hadn't heard yet. Except now, I think I've heard it. It started with a file, an old one I never remembered downloading, but it sat on my desk terminal blinking in a hidden folder named Vanga, Final Entry. I hesitated before opening it. My hands trembled, not with fear but with recognition, as if some part of me already knew what I was about to see. The file contained a video, grainy, flickering, time-stamped from 2 centuries ago. Baba Vanga, eyes closed, speaking in tongues, her voice rising and falling in unnatural tones. Then suddenly she went quiet, dead still. Her mouth opened again, but this time the words came out in perfect English. "They are not coming from the stars. They are the reflection in your genome. The next step, already coded in your blood." Her voice began to distort as if something else had taken over. "They are not invaders. They are instructions. Buried, dormant, waiting. You are not being taken. You are being activated." I froze. Every memory, every blackout, every warped reflection, every hallucination. It wasn't alien intrusion, it was evolution. I wasn't resisting an outside force. I was resisting myself. I shut the file, but the screen kept playing. New footage. Surveillance from inside the Institute. Dated, tomorrow. I saw myself, standing in front of the staff. My voice clear, commanding, addressing them all. "Welcome to the awakening. You are no longer alone in your skin." Then the video cut to black. I stumbled back from the console. My heart was pounding. Not from fear anymore, but certainty. It all made sense. The symbols, the dreams, the mimicry. They weren't trying to invade our world. They were waking up through us. Some ancient intelligence encoded into humanity since the beginning. Not alien, not divine. Something else. designed to activate when the time was right. And now, it was happening. I looked in the mirror, not expecting a reflection, but a question, and I found it. A line scratched into the surface of the glass, faint, nearly invisible unless you looked closely enough. Do you accept what you've become? I didn't answer, because deep down, I already had. That night I dreamt for the last time. I stood on a hill of mirrors, each one showing versions of Earth burned, flooded, frozen, consumed. But all of them shared one constant: us, standing calmly watching it all. Not with fear, but with understanding. Because this was always the end of the story. Not annihilation, not salvation, ascension. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't even remember lying down. But I opened my eyes, and I was in my quarters, except they weren't my quarters. The room was too clean. No dust, no loose items, not a single irregularity. The light overhead didn't flicker. It hummed. Smooth. Perfect. I got up. My movements felt delayed, as if someone had pressed play on a recording of me, and I was just acting it out second by second. When I looked down, I noticed I was already dressed. My uniform was crisp, spotless, except I hadn't worn this version before. The name tag was the same, but the institute emblem was different. Simplified, streamlined, cold. I stepped into the hallway. Every door was closed, every window tinted. The air was sterile. There was no noise, not even the subtle vibration I'd grown used to. And then I saw them. People, at least. I think they were people walking silently through the corridor. Each one moved identically. Same stride, same posture. They passed me like I wasn't even there. No eye contact, no speech. Just perfect mechanical grace. I called out, Mina, nothing. Not even a glance. At the end of the hallway was a mirror. It hadn't been there before. It spanned floor to ceiling, framed in metal, pulsing slightly like it was alive. I stepped toward it. My reflection moved with me. Same pace, same breath, but it didn't blink. I reached out. So did it. And then it spoke with my voice. Do you remember who you were? I froze. My lips hadn't moved. The reflection leaned forward. Or did you just inherit what was left of him? I stumbled back. My mind reeled. Was I still me, or just a shadow, an echo wearing the memory of who I used to be? My heart raced, but I wasn't sure if it was mine anymore. Then the room began to shift. Walls melted into patterns. The floor turned transparent. Beneath me was nothing, an abyss full of writhing light and fractured voices, calling out in languages I'd never learned yet somehow understood. One phrase repeated itself among the chaos over and over again. You are the continuation. The skin of memory. A figure stepped from the mirror. Not me. Not anymore. It looked like a composite, part me, part everyone I had ever known. Faces flickered across its surface like static on glass. It whispered, "You're not a survivor. You're the next version." I tried to speak, but no words came out. Just static. Then everything went dark. I woke up again. Back at the beginning. Same desk, same blinking console. A voice echoed in the distance. Begin observation protocol 2221A. My hands moved automatically. I opened the Vanga file. The same video. The same message. They are not coming from the stars. Deja vu wrapped around me like a noose. Had this already happened? Was I watching the moment he realized? Or was it me reliving it again? Or worse? Was I watching someone else watch me? Now I sit here, writing this, trying to remember what it felt like to be real, to be me. But there's a voice inside my head whispering, "You are not the question. You are the answer that forgot it was an answer." So I ask you, if you're reading this, if you found this record, do you remember who you are? Or are you just the next version waking up inside another shell? Because if you are, then I was never alone. And neither are you. If you found this story valuable and interesting, please hit the like button. This really helps us bring you more good and valuable content. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think, what questions you have, or what topics you would like us to cover next. We love hearing from you. Of course, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next stories. Thank you for taking the time to read my stories.